Okay, so have you ever thought about mentoring someone, like sharing what you've learned and stuff, but then there's this voice in your head saying something like, wait a minute, who am I to mentor anybody?
Yeah, that imposter syndrome thing. It's pretty common, actually.
For real, for real. But what if I told you that becoming a mentor could actually be like the secret weapon to beat that imposter syndrome?
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to dig into today. We've got these excerpts from a mentor's like personal reflection, and it is seriously full of these amazing insights about how being a mentor isn't just about, helping the other person. It totally benefits the mentor too.
Yeah, I think these kinds of personal reflections can be super valuable.
Hmm.
They give you this really honest and authentic perspective.
Mm.
And we often hear about mentoring in terms of like knowledge transfer and all that, but this piece really highlights the fact that it's a two-way street. Both people grow and learn, and sometimes those gains can be pretty unexpected.
Totally. And I was hooked right from the beginning. Like the author talks about dealing with that same old imposter syndrome, right? That feeling of, do I even know enough to be guiding someone else? Have you ever felt that?
Oh, absolutely. It's something I think a lot of us struggle with, especially when we're starting out in our careers.
Yep.
And that's exactly why this piece resonated so much with me. It shows how mentoring can be this powerful way to overcome those feelings. Because when you have to break down a complex topic, something you might know really well but maybe haven't thought about in a while, to explain it to someone who's completely new to it, it forces you to go back to the basics. You have to think, okay, what are the core principles here? And in doing that, you often realize, hey, I actually do know this stuff.
It's true.
And that can be hugely validating.
You're not just teaching, you're actually like solidifying your own understanding at the same time, right? And speaking of growth, the author also found that mentoring can sometimes reveal those little knowledge gaps we all have. Like, those moments when you think you've got a handle on something, but then you try to explain it and it's like crickets.
It's like, wait, I thought I knew this.
Exactly.
But as the author points out, those moments can be uncomfortable, but they're also incredibly valuable because they force you to confront those blind spots. Mentoring can be this incredible motivator to go back, brush up on the fundamentals, dig a little deeper into certain areas, and who knows, it might even inspire you to explore something entirely new that you hadn't even considered before.
100%. And it's not just about technical knowledge.
Yeah.
The author made this point that really hit home for me, which is how much mentoring is like a crash course in communication. Like, it's one thing to know something in your head, right? But to be able to get that across to another person clearly and effectively, whole other story.
Oh, for sure. It's a skill that not everyone has naturally. I mean, some people are just gifted communicators, but for a lot of us, it's something you have to work at. And I think that's what's so great about mentoring. It forces you to hone those skills. You have to learn how to tailor your explanations to different levels of understanding. You get better at active listening, really paying attention to what the other person is asking and how they're responding. And you find ways to make these complex ideas accessible, maybe by using analogies or coming up with different ways to explain something. And these are all skills that are valuable, not just in mentoring, but in any area of life, really.
Definitely. Okay, ready for my favorite part. So the author talks about how a mentee's enthusiasm can be totally infectious and, their energy and excitement for learning new things, it can actually reignite your own passion for what you do. Have you ever like fed off of someone else's enthusiasm?
All the time.
Yeah.
It's contagious, right? Like
Yeah.
if you've been doing something for a long time, it's easy to, I don't know, maybe lose sight of why you were drawn to it in the first place. But when you see someone else who's just starting out and they're so eager and curious, it reminds you of that initial spark. And that can be so energizing.
It's like that saying, enthusiasm is contagious.
Absolutely.
So, this deep dive just really drives home the point that mentoring isn't just about, one person giving and the other person receiving. It's a shared journey. And there's so much growth and learning that happens on both sides.
Yeah. It really makes you rethink the whole idea of mentorship and recognize how powerful it can be. It's a continuous loop of giving and receiving, learning and growing, and maybe even rediscovering your own passion along the way.
Right. And if you've ever thought about mentoring, but that little voice of self-doubt crept in, like, am I ready for this? I think this is your sign. You are ready. And also, mentoring doesn't have to be this formal thing, right? It can be as simple as sharing your experiences with someone who's just starting out, offering advice, being a sounding board when they need it. You never know how much even a small gesture like that could impact someone else. And who knows, you might just surprise yourself with what you learn along the way.
Totally agree.
And that is our deep dive for today. Until next time.